What is up, guys? Welcome to a new video. Today we're going to be checking out some of the most underrated champions right now, like the ones that are strong but haven't really made it to the mainstream yet. Before we kick this off, this is a video with Pro Guide, so thank you to them for helping to edit this. There is a link in the description to check out their site, the Genius feature, and some of my guides as well. Anyway, let's kick this off with one of my favorite champions, Xerath in the mid lane, someone I honestly expect to come back big time soon, and I love this guy. I used to play like a ton of Xerath last season, but poke hasn't really been that effective in season 6, which is one of the reasons I haven't really played much mid lane. It's been a lot more aggressive early, like the early game has mattered more just in the general meta anyway. You have these kind of big team fights, there's a harder snowball and way more roaming, I think. The problem is poke takes like longer to ramp up in the game, you need a bit more time in the game to get your items, and if you're quite far behind you'll literally do nothing. Like, it doesn't really suit a quicker meta at all. Now we're settling down a little bit more though. We've seen like Lux and Vel'Koz come back, and they're a mix of burst and poke. That is why. Xerath is very similar. He actually does the same job in a way, but kind of less burst, but it's a higher range though. The thing is, he's very inconsistent, right? It's one of the biggest things ever about that kind of holds Xerath back, I guess. He's very skill shot reliant like most poke champions, but his ultimate just is not very easy to hit. Hitting like your center W plus Q can lead to some crazy damage up closer, and the big thing that's actually underrated is that like your ability to kill someone on your own. The thing is, you can like poke over and over, right? Then you ult to kill, or you just roam with your ult. You go halfway down the river and suddenly you can ult bot lane. There are actually a lot of options once you learn him a little bit more and learn what you can do with him. I would not be surprised if we see him come back quite a lot. Like, he fills this damage role that mid laners kind of need to right now. He can poke for towers, which is the game is kind of shifting more towards, plus he's got actually a decent team fight. It's one of those picks where even if your team decides to like start playing one-handed for whatever reason, I'll let you decide the reason, like you could still poke enough to actually carry a game. Like, you can hit the back line, you can kill the enemy to AD carry, and you can actually still carry. So Akali is next up, slightly less underrated I think than Xerath, but it like really depends on who you speak to. So you know, if you've been like ruined by an Akali, then you definitely know how strong she is, right? Like, she's gonna one-shot you guys all day. But if you haven't seen one for a while, then you think she's kind of like meh, just kind of like average. Well, the new Gunblade is definitely crazy damage even early into the game. You just need that one item and you're gonna go off. And itemization wise, like after the mage update, is kind of perfect. Like, you have damage but defense as well, and that's exactly what she wants. Thunderlords is gonna give her even more burst this season, but it's kind of the snowball factor, right? I just said this season is more about the early game. You get a lead and you can do more with it, right? Like tower, first blood, dragons, you get more and you kind of extend your lead even more. Akali has like ridiculous win rates in like games that end before 25 minutes, but it starts to drop off after that, and it's because there's so little you can actually do to stop her if you make a mistake early. You have like that one dumb moment, right? Everybody does it. She's gonna kill you for it, which is unlucky. Now she kills you over and over. You can't get close because she's just gonna ult you, but people are gonna do it anyway and they're gonna die because they're greeding for the farm. Then she roams and just spanks everyone else as well. It sounds so familiar, right? It's like every single Akali game where you've got fed, they're gonna do the exact same thing. They're gonna kill you, they're gonna zone you from farm, kill you some more, and then they're gonna snowball the rest of the map. Anyway, enough salt, I guess, right? So right now, like specifically this patch, matchups are a bit better. It's kind of easier to snowball and keep killing a low health carry laner than a tank who is gonna stack some magic resist. The low health supports as well. Immobile AD carries are such a juicy target to roam to bot lane, and remember, like, Ghostblade heals for a percentage of your damage done. It's not lifesteal, it's not spell vamp, whatever, it's all of your damage done. So that means all of your abilities are going to heal yourself, and it's a stupid amount of sustain now. That's partly why it's so hard to recover against her, because she's going to dive in, right? She'll kill you while keeping herself alive. Zhonya's Rylai's make this even worse now. Is a bit more defensive, but they still provide that damage. It just gets to a point where there's nothing you can really do. You can't build defense because it's not going to save you anyway, and you need to build more damage, but then she's going to kill you. So next up is very similar actually. Quinn is kind of like the AD version of Akali, but in my opinion, she's just as good as a jungler as a top laner right now. The thing we're abusing more than anything is her mobility and her gank pressure. Think of it like Moby Boots, right? Like, this is how you should actually play her. Your mindset when you buy Moby Boots is like, okay, run around and kill everyone. That's basically what you're doing on Quinn just 24/7. Your base damage is very high, and you're a dirty Ghostblade user for the armor pen and the extra speed up, and people have actually started going Ghostblade into Duskblade. It is an insane, like, brutal combo. It's really nasty and it will one-shot people no problem, but it's kind of more for top lane, I think. It's actually kind of expensive, and you ideally use it to like extend a lead you already have while they still don't have much armor, and in the jungle, like after Warrior and Ghostblade, it'll be a bit too slow, I think. It is actually disgusting though. It's very similar to how a Jhin would abuse it as well. So like as a jungler though, it's a bit different. Like, you play it kind of like a Lee Sin. You have this early damage, you have pressure, you roam around and you try to impact stuff as much as possible, just being this ganking machine. As a top laner, you're going to try and harass and bomb your lane opponent into the ground, then kind of take that lead and roam around with it, trying to create like a real chaos style game where you get kills and then you take stuff like towers afterwards. So both are actually super strong before 30 minutes. Like around the 2 item mark, not many people can out damage you or match your map impact at all. You'll just randomly show up and kill people over and over. I've seen people get a kill bot lane, right, then bird up to mid lane and get another. Really, it is that straightforward. So you do massively dip after that though, okay? So around 3 to 4 items, like you are not going to be keeping up as much anymore. You can't one-shot people really, and you're not exactly a team fighter either. Late game, you are going to be able to one-shot easier again, and at that point, you can still do a lot of work if you play like an assassin or an AD carry, whichever you're needed for, whichever your team needs. It's pretty interesting for me. Maybe I'm just a massive nerd, but when I was researching this pick more, like she has this massive dip and just doesn't seem to compete at like 3 or 4 items. Once you get full build again though, you can start to do your job. That's like not very common at all to just have this massive dip but still come back late game. And if you play her at all, it'd be a really good thing to keep in mind. Like stall the game at that point, then you stand more chance later. So number 4 is going to be Karthus. I mentioned him about a month ago, I think, but he's actually getting a bit stronger in my opinion right now in 6.15. Remember, the point of this video is not to talk about the obvious stuff either, like the ones that people know about. It's to find these hidden gems that have the potential to carry super high. I hate that phrase. Why did I use that phrase? Karthus does all of that with pure damage. Like literally, he doesn't offer much else apart from his slow, I guess, but it's mostly just how much he can output. There are a couple of things right now though, especially. So the first thing is you're super hard to ever take like a tower against. Your wave clear is crazy. It's going to prevent the mid lane snowball completely. You can farm from range. Assassins can maybe kill you, but anything else won't get close enough or be able to. Dragons and barons as well are so hard against a Karthus. Like you have the wall to slow and kind of stop them coming in, and a huge area of damage around him where they aren't going to want to fight you. Basically, the enemy team is forced to leave or take a fight right on top of you, exactly where they do not want to be. So objectives and towers mean more now. We have both of those covered, but also roaming. Like we kind of do, but we don't actually roam. We ult. It's like a Gangplank ult, except you walk back and you channel it and you use it, right? You know how Gangplank just ults when the jungler ganks and suddenly you have like jungler plus GP ult to deal with? It's like that, but now Karthus ult instead. I know he's seen like as a total late game champion, and it's kind of true. Like he is the mid lane hyper carry. The later the game goes, the better he is, and eventually you'll reach a point where your ult does like 1500 damage or more probably, and you're going to win the game by itself. The thing is, like, you're still good early if you hit your Q skittles and wave clear properly. Like, don't put yourself in a dumb spot. You're still going to do a lot. Part of the reason I actually looked into him in the first place for this video was because he's very similar to GP in a lot of ways, so I also think he's really good right now. There's like this no pressure style of game. You just farm and eventually you're going to carry, but some kill pressure in lane if they mess up, and ability to like snowball and do damage earlier if they get ahead. In my opinion, as long as your team doesn't like get crushed at the very start of the game, that is like pretty perfect for the kind of game we're in at the moment. So last but not least of the big 5 is going to be Diana for this video. Diana can like swing one or two ways. You either carry like a monster or you kind of do nothing if you play it wrong. Diana is a diver, right? That is how you'd actually class her as a champion. Your job is to dive into the enemy team and kill people to actually disrupt and buy as much time as possible, taking as many people with you. It's a lot like an assassin in a way, but it's had like this added disruption in there as well. Like when you're ahead, that is going to be fine though. You have more damage, you can dive in and kill people while they can't burst you. Diana normally revolves around this one-shot combo, right? You Q, you ult, you W, you ult again to secure the first kill of the fight, and it gives your team a massive advantage. When you're behind though, it actually sucks because you don't have the damage to one-shot, or like if they have enough damage to turn around and screw you after you've dived in. The misconception though is that if your team is behind, you can't do anything and you can't carry, but actually it literally revolves around you though. Like, can you one-shot someone or not? This is why I actually think Jungle Diana is very underrated. That's kind of where this focus is going to be for this video for me. AP junglers are a bit better in the jungle now, like especially when Riot so kindly nerfed all of the top tier bully carry junglers who would just dump on them early game. She can clear well and stay healthy, which is very important, but it basically like lets her reach this strong state with very little risk. At level 6, your ganks are going to be pretty decent, at least damage wise, and you can just farm items for as long as you're going to need to. The thing is, like, Diana gets punished in lane, right? Just put behind where she can't really do too much, but in the jungle it's really hard to do that. If you think of like a Kog'Maw, okay, part of the reason a Kog'Maw jungle actually works is because he can farm really well and then just come out of the jungle with loads of damage and items, and it's so hard to stop him doing that and abuse his weak early game. Like, it's a really similar deal. The one problem really is that the later the game goes, right, the harder it becomes for you to one-shot someone and the more useless you actually become, really. If you're going to play Diana, yes, you have like this free farm like a Kog'Maw, but you actually need to do something with the lead and snowball once you get some items. Just get 6, like gank a lot and extend your lead, abuse the early game you have, and that's one way like to really start to win a lot more with her. I think like especially at lower ranks this would work really well if you had a game plan and you actually tried to stick to it. Like if you're aggressive, Diana could be a really good carry pick. Anyway, that's going to wrap up this video, so thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Remember to check out Pro Guides. Thank you for editing this video, but for now, let's go to the robots.